Hey guys, it's Marcelo Stroza here, the producer of StarFleet Radio. I've been asked by our beloved crew to give them a little introduction for this episode. So, in this episode, the crew will discuss the following episodes: Mud's Women, What Little Girls Are Made Of, and Miri. Along with our beloved crew, we have a special guest for this episode. TV producer, editor, and all around good guy, Rob Hedrick. He is a master producer who has produced events for the WNBA, the NHL, and CNN. And it was such a pure pleasure to have him as a special guest for this episode to sit down and talk with us. Without any further ado, here is the crew. Enjoy this episode, guys.
Welcome. Your journey begins now. All systems operational.
Welcome to StarFleet Radio. We have our usual hosts here today, Rachel.
Hi.
Lewis.
Hello.
And I am Marcy, as always, and we are joined by a special guest today, our friend Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hello.
We are in the middle of a rewatch of the original Star Trek, and I haven't seen some of these episodes since I was a child. I'm rewatching them each before we do these, and there's been some surprises. I thought there wouldn't be. I thought I had a pretty good handle, especially with all the references that come up later in other Star Treks, like Lower Decks. But definitely been surprised by some of the things. And this week, this time is no exception. So our first episode that we're going to talk about is Mud's Women. Rachel, why don't you go first?
I think this episode is funnier than it's meant to be now. Because at some point when they're like, I'm so ugly, and I was like, did you take your makeup off? What are you talking about?
Right.
Slightly dishevel your hair? But it is like a confusing episode also.
I feel like at this point, at least in the order that we've been doing them, the beautiful woman causing a commotion has been overplayed.
It's remarkable to me that someone watched this episode and went, let's make Mud a reoccurring character. Like,
why do we bring back that guy?
I will say the actor is like entertaining, but I was like, Mud sucks. Like,
right.
He's also one of those like Hollywood that guys. Like,
yeah.
During this time period in television, there was like a rotating cast of like 30 people, and it's like, oh, I'll be on Dragnet tonight, and then I'll be on Star Trek next week.
I also at some point had the lie detector machine.
Yeah.
It was like playing for humor, and then I would like remember the fact of like, oh, but also, by the way, lie detector machines in real life are a scam, and you should not let a police person hook you up to one. There's a reason they're not admissible in court in a lot of places.
It's funny too that the special effects were redone for the lie detector machine as well. Like they did a new plate for that.
And I was like, that seemed like it probably would have been fine. It's something on a computer screen.
I did like how the one time he told the truth, they didn't pause to see if the computer was going to correct him, which I felt like it was a bit of a mistake. They're just like, and moving on. Like,
I also feel like it is a little nitpicky of that computer when he says, my name's Harry Mudd. They're like, no, it's not. And I was like, it is. He's not lying there. If one of my brothers are Douglas and Benjamin, if they say my name is Doug or my name is Ben, they're not lying.
Like, yeah, that's true. It's like you see the connection.
Did you notice the goof too? Like when they beamed in, one of the goofs that IMDb pointed out was when they shot all the people, ogling the women as they beamed in. They did like 3 or 4 passes of all the men, and 2 of the passes had McCoy in different clothes than the last 2 passes.
Oh, I missed that.
Me too.
That's great. Like
he was in his medical smock for one of them, and then he wasn't in the other.
They took so long. He went, changed, came back.
We have to make sure we get this. Let's shoot the women 13 times.
Yeah.
I felt like even if you'd had a similar plot to this in a modern Trek, maybe they would have shown up in those outfits, but at some point you would have gotten them something else to wear.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's the 60s. They can wear the sequin dresses the whole time.
Yeah.
Mm.
So many times in Star Trek, I do have to remind myself that the mini dress was part of like the women's liberation movement. And I was like, that's why they're all in mini dresses. It was actually like feminist to be wearing like the shortest skirt possible.
Right.
Because it is insane.
Also, like, how is that functional for performing work? Like, we forget this is an office in space.
Oh, no. That's,
Yeah.
There's a shot, and they're not nearly as short, but the Kelvin universe, women's uniforms, are still pretty short for like a military uniform, but there's a very funny angle on Zoe Saldana running in one of them, where it's like they're clearly like, okay, how do we angle this so we can do a bit of a cool angle, but also not accidentally like get more of Zoe Saldana than we want. But yeah, with basically a military uniform.
Right, and then it's like not covering or safe to work in.
No.
Yeah.
It is also interesting that Spock is just like completely like, what is wrong with all of you? Like,
right. I think he speaks for the audience.
Yeah.
Totally. He's like, really, this
I also
again.
Again.
So but the things do make them look different, right? Because Spock doesn't think they look bad, as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not like getting whatever weird pheromones are putting.
He's not enamored the same way. It's not
right.
It's not like the same effect of like the that the Orion women have, where it's actually a pheromone causing problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like Spock doesn't seem to look at them and be like, "What are you talking about?" They look. I'm gonna go ugly in quotations because they all look fine.
And this is kind of jumping to the end, but when she's beautiful again because she thinks she took the Venus pill, so her confidence just put the false eyelashes on, or what?
Yeah.
When she ate the juju fruits at the end.
Also, honestly, I'd love to have a pill I could take and just have a full face of makeup on.
Right.
Honestly, this takes time.
It was her inner confidence making their eyelashes longer.
Because that's how science works.
That's how science works. Confidence will make glue something to your face.
That's right.
Well, and also, wasn't that like was it in Kirk's quarters when she like took the pill, or it was in Harry's quarters?
Yeah.
The pill looked like,
a
Christmas ornament, and it was glowing. And then she's like, "Oh, there it is again," but it was like gelatin candy. Like she didn't notice the difference.
I will say that second time, and she was like, "Yes, this is what you want." And I was like, "Honestly, that does look like good candy." Like, I really like sour jelly candy, so I was like, "That does look good, though."
The whole plot of like why the women are going along with this is because they're so desperate for husbands, right? They've been in this menless environment and they are desperate for husbands. And I'm just like, why?
At least that, maybe because I read quite a bit of historical romance, and that at least read true to me for like Wild West stories.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, some historical truth to that happening.
It did feel very, like, Shane or oldie-timey spaghetti western of, like,
yes,
I gotta go find me a man right now.
Basically, they're mail-order brides. Like,
yeah, exactly. We'll trade dilithium for these women.
Apparently at some point, because this was considered for, like, the second pilot.
Really?
Oh, interesting.
Except NBC was like, no. And why NBC's description of why they said no, I'm trying to find it at Emory F made me laugh.
But did you also feel like, because watching it, I never read that, but I felt it was kind of like, this seems to be a theme with Roddenberry of like, oh, beauty's an illusion that's very important to everybody. Everybody's superficialness is very important to them.
This felt very much a like, Gene Roddenberry episode. Like,
but he did marry the computer, so.
Yeah. The NBC did not choose this episode as the second pilot, mostly because they were worried about the central theme of selling women throughout the galaxy, and the guest stars being an intergalactic pimp and 3 space hookers. And it was funny because I didn't actually.
A much better title.
read them.
That's actually more harsh than I was looking at it. Like I
Yes,
was just like, wow,
same.
they're quite desperate. I mean,
I
yeah,
didn't. It's funny because I didn't take it as that career path is technically illegal in I would say most, if not all, of the United States. Whereas I was taking them to be mail order brides, which is not like illegal.
right. Yeah, that's interesting. I was looking at this like um in the 60s, like women were just getting like credit cards on their own and stuff and
I
like
think
bank accounts
I
and
honestly don't think that in the I think it's 70s
like
actually for credit cards.
okay,
It
okay,
is.
so they weren't there. So I
It
mean
is.
it kind of that kind of explains like why the audience would be like, well, yes, they obviously need a husband because like
Yeah.
that would be their means for like financial support and everything.
Yeah.
What do you think the end when she was like cooking and he was all like ticked off that I can cook for myself? It's like, well, okay, you just broke like that's completely opposite of the character you've presented the entire episode. Now that
Yeah.
she's there cooking for you, you don't like that?
Think he wanted more the sequin dress,
Yeah.
not the household help.
Yeah, he wanted
Mm.
the
Yeah.
supermodel, not the
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a domestic partner.
For living on a mining colony, guess which one's more useful? It's not the supermodel.
Right.
Like,
For living
Yeah.
inside styrofoam house.
yeah.
I thought that she forgave him pretty quick for all that when she decided to stay on the planet.
Yeah, it felt very much we're getting to the end of this episode. We're not keeping these people on. We gotta wrap this up. Let's go, let's get out of here. And Kirk is like, I want these people off my ship. Oh my god.
I mean, I don't really blame him for wanting to be done. Like I was done too. I was done probably 20 minutes before.
Yeah. I was more done with Mud than I was with the women. I think I understood the women more than I understood Mud. Mud was basically trafficking women.
Well, and how many times has he done this? Like, it seemed like he was pretty familiar with this group of women. So
Yeah,
does he keep like taking these women and returning them, or what's the like? How is he so familiar with these people?
I don't know. And it was also one of those, I don't know if his thing about like I had a captain and he died. I'm completely unclear if that was true or not. The computer didn't tell me it was a lie, so maybe it was true. Because he also kind of says it's kind of something new because he's like, I've devoted my life to this, and the computer is like, and he's like, well, I'm starting to devote my life to it.
Right.
Yeah, I got the impression this was his first go around of this.
Maybe it being his first go around, maybe that's how he got so close to the women.
Maybe so.
Mm.
Because
He
first he
didn't-
had to like find people to convince
Yeah.
them that this is the scheme like we're gonna go with.
He also didn't seem as upset as I would be if I had just lost my ship.
Lucky, I was like, you're lucky you had those pills on you. They didn't blow up.
Yeah, he'd been able
Yeah.
to take those with him.
Yeah.
Like I was confused too, like were they having like discomfort other than like emotional discomfort from looking that way? Because they were freaking out pretty bad when they were turning like wrinkly.
They were writhing pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that whatever the change happens hurts. Like when the
Okay.
change is happening. That was just like if your body's changing that much, the same way going through a growth spurt hurts.
That
So
makes
they
sense.
would have just
Yeah.
that would make sense. So they would probably just be more comfortable but
Yeah.
pruny.
Yeah. Honestly, as anyone would tell you, it's when you take your makeup off, it's significantly more comfortable. Like,
That's true. I just had a hard time because I was like, okay, this doesn't look like natural aging we're looking at. Like, what's going on? But the makeup is what
Yeah.
it is for the time frame.
time frame. It's also 60s makeup now in HD. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have
Yes.
to be
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
forgiving about that. I think in
Yes.
another episode I was like, whoa, they would have blended that differently. In another episode we're going to talk about, I was like, they would have blended that differently if they knew about HD cameras.
Well, and if
But-
you look at like 16 millimeter, the way it aired originally, because this was all shot on 16.
Yeah.
16 millimeter originally aired and it looked terrible. So it's almost like these people knew we're going to shoot it on 16 and then we'll play it back off whatever videotape we have at the time or right off of the 16 millimeter film.
Yeah.
We knew it would look like this on television, but now, like you said, it's been all rescanned into HD, and there's stuff that wasn't ever meant to be on camera, and it
Yeah.
looks really great optically, but the sets and everything look really cheap now.
Well, like an example I use for TNG is that in HD you can kind of tell that Marina Sirtis's hairpiece doesn't quite match her hair color
Absolutely.
in a way that you would not have been able to tell when that was airing.
Oh, interesting.
I also noticed I haven't watched original series in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how tight they get. A lot of tight shots of everybody for reaction and super close-up shots. Like Kirk has like a dozen close-ups for every episode.
How long do they keep a camera in Shatner's face?
And it's like, it's very interesting. Lighting obviously changes period to period, time period to time period, but lots of shadows, lots of like heavy backlight. It's really interesting to see how like this is what TV looked like in the 60s when we were in space.
And also because I noticed they were doing a little bit, sometimes for the women, a little bit of the like Vaseline on screen.
Oh yeah. Super soft filters. It was crazy, like, and really tight and super soft.
Yeah.
And glowing.
And glowing, yeah.
Did they really? Do you think they filmed this like with the stocking over the camera?
I think
on the
some of the shots of the women were that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can't tell you exactly what filter they were using. I know sometimes people really did do Vaseline on like on cameras.
They'll also do like special processing to where you like expose you run it through a couple extra stops to where it makes it look a little washed out, and then you get a little bit of that like white frostiness around the edge of the frame.
I did see someone recently. We were watching something. He was like, "People just weren't meant for this high depth cameras. We should not be able to see this many pores." And she was like, "No one." She's like, "No one looks good when you can just like see every pore."
I also think the ship looks really. It's so funny what the idea of the future looked like in the 60s. And it's all, especially when they show food or any of the like close-ups of buttons, and you're like, that button looks old for the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like back, I don't know, the early 2000s when we were all just using like our phone to take pictures of our food to like put it on Instagram before like all the lighting. It's like, this looks terrible. Like,
yeah. Oh God, recently there's been a trend. It was like what I posted in 2015 without thinking about it, and what I like almost didn't post today because people like 2015 were like, "Yeah, it looks fine. I look a little goofy."
You would never know.
Back to that. Just put all the goofy pictures up.
Yeah. It's a more innocent time.
It's interesting because I was like, this version of Mud comes back later in the original series. He's in the animated series and then comes back in Discovery. Like that's the character that just keep coming back. At least Discovery is like, no, this guy's terrible.
We have to move on to the next episode. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the Paramount episode list, it is what are little girls made of?
I was telling this to Rob at the beginning. Because of like the order they come in, I always get this and Miri confused because I think this should be like, this seems like it should be Miri's title.
Totally. Yeah.
Although this is going to come up pretty soon in Strange New Worlds because of Chapel and
I was thinking the same.
Yeah, and they've cast someone to play Corby.
Oh, interesting.
Because I guess at some point she needs to meet this guy. This is like, I think, a really interesting episode though, because it's so interesting their idea of like androids here compared to like, and then Data exists many, many years later.
Yes.
And he is way less creepy than anything going on in this episode.
Did you find it funny, like, that these two episodes back to back, you're like, oh, they repurposed the entire set from the dilithium planet for Roger Corby's cave?
I was thinking they looked similar.
I thought they looked similar.
Also, Mud's quarters are just Kirk's quarters, right?
Right. Kirk's quarters, like, shot in reverse.
Yeah.
I thought that Alien's contouring, though, was on point.
Yeah, no, that's the one I was like, I loved his contouring, but they would have done it differently if now. if they do it about HD TV.
Right? Was he the one you were thinking of? Yeah.
I was like, I can't contour like that. Whoever, like, props to whoever did that.
Right? I felt like his coloring reminded me of the Traveler in Wesley Crusher's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He kind of more, maybe just that actor is so tall, kind of reminded me of like Mr. Home, Lashana Troy's like butler dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think it's more the size of the dude.
He also he had a role in Star Trek as the Blaylock puppet.
Okay, I was about to ask, is that dude? Because
it is. Like, it's the same person.
Yeah.
He was in was he in the Addams Family?
Yeah, he was Lurch.
Okay. I was like, he gives me big Lurch vibes, but this is for the 60s, so he could just be Lurch.
He is Lurch.
Yeah. No, I'd ready of once somehow Inspector Gadget came up in like my high school, and someone's like, he was like, my teacher said, it always gives me Get Smart vibes, and I was like, it's literally the same actor. That's why.
Literally.
This is the first time we're seeing Chapel, right?
No, not in the order that we're going.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the first time Chapel's giving me much to do, but
that's probably true. Yeah,
it's like the first character episode.
Yeah.
I was surprised at like they reunite on the surface and like immediately we're making out, like just going at it, like her and her fiance in front of everybody,
like in front of her boss.
Yes.
I'll give them that it's her fiance she thought was dead.
Fair enough.
I did like the moment where they think it turns out to be the assistant that's actually an android. I mean, everyone's an android. And then when she goes to run to him for a second because she thinks it's Corby and Kirk stops her. So I think we're like establishing that she is very excited, which of course it's her fiance. Like it's the man she loves. But I did like that of her being like, yeah, like Chapel's not in a bad way. Chapel's emotions are running things a little bit for her.
That's true.
Let's not forget that a man just died in a horrific way.
That's true.
Oh, yes, that is true.
That's true. That's fair.
And they're all weirdly okay with it.
Well, Kirk like calls. He's like, I need security. I need 2 red shirts. One of them's going to die the minute they beam down.
Yeah. That's why we need 2. Oh, the other one's dead. Oops. I thought we could get 1 back.
It's so like when you compare it to the way that the crew of Discovery act when they lose somebody.
Yeah.
It's so different. The vocal impressions added a fun twist to the plot. Yeah.
I like how Roger was really mad when he was like, do not imitate Christine.
Yeah. He was like, that's weird and I hate it. Like,
he's like, that shouldn't turn me on the way it should. Please stop doing that.
That's 100% the vibe I got. He was just like, oh no, I don't like that.
You know how like he made a android of Kirk by spinning him around on the machine
out of mashed potatoes?
Yeah, where did the models come from for the other people, like for Andrea?
Yeah, good question.
I don't know. Well, one of them, maybe there was just more assistants there, because one was an assistant she knew.
Oh yeah, Dr. Brown.
Yeah,
that's true.
So she sees him and is like, oh my God, my old friend.
Well, I think we need to start a hashtag justice for Andrea, and we need to find her because I just needed to know more about her character. Honestly, she was the most compelling person out of the 3 episodes that we watched. I was just like, just tell me what happened to Andrea. How did she get here?
Why is she here?
If you look at Dr. Brown, what he's wearing versus what Andrea's wearing. They're wearing the same thing. They just gave him a black turtleneck to wear under it.
Right. She didn't
Yeah.
get a turtleneck. She
No.
doesn't get cold.
Like for 60s, that had to be like near porn for network television.
Yeah, I don't like.
Probably so.
They're halfway through the episode. I think it kind of clicked what she was wearing, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. I can't believe like a network censor in the 60s wasn't like, no, this is going to air on Sunday nights. We can't have children watching that.
Well, because their belly button was covered, and wasn't that really the only concern?
Okay, my favorite. So, like, I Dream of Jeannie, famously, they wouldn't let her show her belly button, but then they ended up. They're like, "No, you can never show her belly button." And they ended up doing like a beach episode, and everyone else is in a 2-piece, but they had made it a rule she couldn't show her belly button, so she had to be in a 1-piece. But they were like, there's just times when women show their belly buttons. Y'all are being weird. I was wondering how long while watching this episode did it take for you to realize like, oh, Corby is not human anymore?
I suspected it as soon as the assistant was an android. I started guessing that Dr. Corby was also an android.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel certain until they revealed it. It was just a suspicion.
I was trying to remember because watching this episode, I remembered that this time. So the whole time they were like, "What's up with him?" And I was like, "He's not alive." That's what. But I feel like maybe like that's when the first time I watched it.
I think like the second rewatch when I originally saw it,
Yeah.
I think Kirk realized pretty quickly on, and that's why he said, or disobey an order from her. Because I think he instantly was like, I'm going to put that into programming for all these people so that they can't harm me.
I felt so bad for Chapel here. Chapel's like, I don't know why he's got insane. Although she's like, he's in his right mind. I was like, no, he's not. Like, he's clearly not.
She kept trying to like sell that he was okay.
Yeah. And I was like, honey, I know that you're very sad, but your fiance has lost it.
Yeah.
Like.
Some more epic, terrible Star Trek food in this episode, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like beef stew with building blocks in it.
So, I don't even know how to put it. There was the, like, rock Kirk is holding at one point is so interestingly shaped. Let's just put it that way.
I had only seen like GIFs and screenshots of that on Twitter. And so when they were walking around on the set, I feel like it was like hanging vertically still at one point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, is this that episode? And then, yeah, sure enough, it was.
Him and Andrea were like being romantic, right? Like that.
Yeah.
I felt so bad because she seemed so confused.
Well, because when Kirk tried to like Kirk on her, then she was like, I'm not programmed for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means she was programmed for somebody else.
Yeah, I was like, Kirk, I understand what you're doing, but also please stop.
Yeah.
I was like, I understand you're trying to survive, whatever. I hate it.
Yeah. I really felt like Andrea got a bum deal in this. I wanted her to be able to, go away on the ship with them, explore her own existence.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what would have happened in a modern Trek, I feel like.
I think so too. I think specifically not even just like, modern sensibilities. I think in Star Trek, after the existence of Data, that would happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Because people are just more interested because we're like, no, androids can have, like, they can be sentient. These completely unclear to me, the sentience of these.
In Strange New Worlds, they need to be like, oh, she didn't actually like destroy herself. We found her on a planet and then go let her be happy somewhere. # justice for Andrea.
Who pulled the trigger? Who pulled the trigger in the end? It was Corby.
She did.
Oh, she did? I thought it was Corby reached for it.
I thought it was Corby.
Really? I thought it was her.
I don't know. I'm not going to vote.
Interesting. Okay, going back to Corby, if he had been really different than the android, she would have picked up on it faster. And that is what's going to lead us back to Miri Lorca again.
Yes.
Because we need to talk about him every podcast.
I'm just fascinated. I genuinely want to know how different he is. I always took that everyone. I think he probably was more different, but then people were like, "Yeah, he has PTSD. That's why."
Yeah.
Um, and then I always thought in this episode that even if he probably was more different than maybe if she was anyone who wasn't in love with this man, she probably would have picked it up on it faster.
Like Kirk did.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but she had like rose tinted glasses on, and it was like, oh my god, my fiance who I thought was dead is still alive. This is amazing.
But do you think she'd be so blind to like, this isn't the man I fell in love with?
Maybe, but it's also been 5 years. Like,
maybe.
And then I almost thought this is like a 60s version of 5 years, whereas now we have the idea that we probably have a ton of recordings of them. And I feel like even though obviously this takes place in the future, in the 60s, they would not have that concept.
Right. They wouldn't understand, like, there's ways to communicate and remember. And
yeah. Also, in the 60s, they probably kind of unrealistic for people to, like, just stop communicating for 5 years. Like, I'd be like, don't have a radio, dude?
Yeah.
And they're all like, wow, Christine really sounds like the computer. It's really strange.
Don't think about that. That's the android she gets turned into.
Right.
The
computer.
They meant
I also so the message he gives to Spock is being like racist.
Yeah, how did he know, like, I've got to put this in my head so that when Spock asks me a question, I'll have a tantrum and say that out loud.
Yeah. I did like Spock at least being like, Kirk isn't usually racist, so I'm assuming this isn't really Kirk.
Spock's like, that's even a line for him. That's a little bit far for him.
That seems like something McCoy would say, but not Kirk.
It was definitely like that, tell your followers that you've been kidnapped with a single thing you wouldn't normally tweet. Yeah.
Yes. I did like Kirk, Spock calling him out later. He's like, don't call me that, asshole. Like,
on the bridge, he's like, hey, man.
Hey, man, what the hell?
That was a little too far.
Yeah.
But it was probably like the most emotionally mature conversation in the series so far.
True.
So are we ready to talk about Miri?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So I loved the set. Was it actually an Andy Griffith set that they were running around?
It's when they beam down to Planet Paramount backlot.
Yeah.
I think it was the Andy Griffith set.
Of course it was.
It felt very homey.
It felt like you should see a young Ron Howard running across the street.
Right.
Like Miri's an interesting episode. Because it's like a very interesting concept, but so odd in so many ways.
It was very oddly executed. Although this one got them out of their rut that they were in plot wise. It was much more imaginative.
Yeah.
I really liked a lot of things about it. I was uncomfortable with the Kirk Miri interactions.
Absolutely. That was gross.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And it's like, and it's funny because a girl Miri's age having a crush on an older guy, like that happens. That's a fairly normal developmental thing. But everyone should be like, no. Like,
Marcy, you were absolutely correct. The exterior sets for Miri are the original series were filmed on the 40-acre backlot, which was the exact spot used for Andy Griffith Main Street.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like if this was done today, you could still have Miri crushing on Kirk, but like you would have Kirk shutting it down harder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even like his lines when he's like, she's becoming a woman. It's like, gross, man. She's like, she may be 300 in carbon dating years, but she's like 13.
I think it would be changed to like she's going through puberty, like something like that specifically. Like,
I just felt like he didn't need to tell her she was pretty that many times. Like, it got weird.
Absolutely.
And then, like, he's holding her hand. And this is after they explained to him that she was starting to catch feelings for him. And he wasn't, like, slowing it down. He was playing into it so that he could manipulate her more.
I think he could have still had the manipulation factor without, like, having to be creepy uncle touching her.
It's also because you also the thing where like they're losing their temper, so you're like, like that's also happening, and like I understood why that was happening. That's like part of the disease.
Right, they're going mad.
I will say it is very cute that a lot of the kids were played by the actors' children.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
So the kid that Kirk's holding, like running with, is like his daughter. It's William Shatner's daughter.
Really?
Oh.
So I'm like, and then I know the actress that plays Rand, her children were there too. So I think another one of Shatner's kids, but I was like, cute, something cute, good.
The leader of the kid gang, John, was the homeless guy that Bill Murray fired in Scrooged.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I saw one of the preteens is like a 20 something old.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it confusing because I think the actress for Miri was actually like 19.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank God she wasn't actually played by a 13-year-old.
I do wonder if that would have changed the dynamic if they had actually picked, like, if someone on set would have been like, but since they were looking at an adult.
Yeah. It reminds me of like when they originally cast the like Leonardo DiCaprio, Romeo and Juliet. There was like a screen touch with Natalie Portman because Juliet is like 13 in the original play, and they're like, nope, gross, like looks gross. Absolutely not. Interesting because I did like when Kirk's original things where he's like, why does she want to hang out with us? And he's like, oh, I think kids want to be around adults because they like need rules. And I was like,
no,
yeah,
no, Kirk, that's not how they think.
I guess. Oh, I just think there was this is back in What Little Girls Are Made For, but I was like, I know he has nephews because they mentioned Sam in the previous episode. But I was like, do you just see your nephew around their supportive parents? Because like kids like their parents if they're good parents. But I was like, do you just see your nephew around their supportive parents? Because like kids like their parents if they're good parents.
I was posting about this on Blue Sky, and this friend of mine, DigiFluid, responded back and said his favorite thing about the episode is how, quote, it's an exact copy of Earth, is in the cold open, dramatic moment, and then it's 30 seconds after the intro credits, it never comes up again.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, no, I was thinking that too. Is that where did this Earth come from?
Right?
Well, and even like in the new visual effects, it's a map of North America.
Yes.
Yeah.
Florida.
Yes.
We're going to go to Florida.
Oh, actually, that explains a lot about the episode.
Also, they hear a sound and everyone runs to the sound. Like, why?
I don't know.
And Rand, she's on the planet, but she has no tricorder, no phaser. I don't know why she's there.
Where would she put a phaser in that uniform? I think this probably was more apparent in like an earlier version of the script that apparently when they were making this, their idea was like this was like Peter Pan, and that Miri's Wendy, that one kid is Peter. But I was like, but I would prefer it if it's Peter Pan and Wendy has a little crush on this other child as opposed
yeah
to William Shatner, this grown man with a child there in the group. Like that's how old William Shatner is.
Oh, wow. It says that Leonard Nimoy was asked to allow his children to appear, and he refused.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. I kind of get like why someone would be like that, though.
I think it's like parents now choosing to keep their kids off social media.
Yeah, totally.
But maybe filming hours are hard. They have to be there like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also funny in that in my head, I'm like, of those people, Leonard Nimoy's son is the only one I know to be in show business. Like, Dad, why didn't you let me go hang out on the set? I think they also did a good job of explaining, like, apparent, like, why the people couldn't just go back to the ship. They're like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like making it like really make sense.
Do you think, though, in a modern one, they would have been like, we're going to beam directly into a containment zone?
Totally. Yes.
I could totally see that.
Yeah. And then they could have mixed up the sets a little bit, kind of visually more interesting. We would have had some sciencey stuff going on up on the ship.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, they did not. They had the what they had for the a set, the Andy Griffith Show, and nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love that they make a point. They're like using this old timey microscope, huh? And you're like, yeah, you had that lying around.
Right. That happened to just be there. And we have to still use the ship's computer because this computer that can fit down here is not powerful enough.
I also, because they're like, this is Earth. Also, these people have been alive for 300 years. And I was like, so when was this happening?
And how much food did they bring with them that they're just now running out? Oh, they brought 306 years of food.
Yeah. Or maybe it's because like the older kids were still able to make some food.
Maybe.
Because like the older kids, I assume, are taking, because they do say like when you die, they'll die next because like they can't make food.
That's true.
I mean, Foley's grocery store probably still wasn't open.
I assume that's an Andy Griffith reference.
It was.
It's been a long time since I sat down and watched an episode of the Andy Griffith Show. The Andy Griffith Show is also on my list of, it's so weird to me, shows that are named after the actor and the actor doesn't have that name.
Exactly.
Like The Cosby Show, The Andy Griffith Show.
Dick Van Dyke
Show. Michael J. Fox had a TV show called The Michael J. Fox Show. Was not named Michael J. Fox on that show. I was just think it's just a weird. It's so weird to me. I think both Newhart TV shows were like that.
Yeah, and he wasn't named the same thing in either one of them.
Yeah.
Was that like the Mary Tyler Moore? Was hers like that?
Yeah, because she was Mary Richards.
Yep.
Yes.
It's so weird to me. It's like, clearly it's, hey, this actress you like, this is her TV show, please watch. But I'm like, it's so weird now because I'm like, that's not his name. It's a complete tangent. It's not, Star Trek does not do that. Star Trek is not called William Shatner's TV show. I also, like, obviously clear it's that, you know, Kirk just picks up a child and runs with it. It's like, it's William Shatner's child. That's why she's like, okay, that's fine. But I was like, this child has never been picked up like by an adult. Should be like, what's happening? Wait,
it's kind of sad.
Yeah. What? Sorry?
That's kind of sad.
Yeah. It's not a happy thought. Maybe
Rachel making his heart breaking now. Never been picked up by its mom.
Maybe Miri picked her up at some point.
You know those kids all stink too.
Oh, totally.
Like they haven't had a bath in 300 years.
They should be covered in mold. Like,
yeah. That's what the real disease is.
Yeah. Maybe it rains enough. Maybe it is Florida. It just rains a lot.
I don't think so. I mean, like kids can take care of all that by the time they're like 8 or something.
But if they don't have anyone telling them to do that,
that's
wouldn't.
True. They shouldn't have any teaching.
That's actually, so that's bringing up a good point because the kind of the exploration in this episode is like how much is learned through experience versus like brain growth and development. So, and I think that's what's really interesting because like we can see kids.
None of them should have teeth. None of those kids would have brushed their teeth.
Right.
Their parents telling them to.
But like how, you know, when you see kids going through hardship in real life, they mature really, really quickly and they're able to do adult things much earlier than they should because they've been placed in a hard situation. And I think maybe they were not aware of situations like that when this episode was made because I think realistically, unfortunately, kids would mature really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but that would be in a situation where they're still in a society. And if the society is just the kids, maybe it's a different evolution path.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. These are kind of emotional roller coaster episodes. A couple of them are. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Totally.
So, but great discussion. And as always, thank you. And thank you, Rob, for joining us.
Thanks
It's
for
always
having
great
me.
to talk to you. We haven't had you on since we had our original podcast, the Discotheque podcast. So great to have you.
Appreciate you including me.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thanks for listening to Star Trek Radio.
Goodbye.
StarFleet Radio is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.